Hello everybody, this is Mr. Randa back. This is Quadratics video number 18. This is the last one in the series on quadratic functions, aka chapter 5. So after this, you're done for a while. This one's about the discriminant, vocab word, of the quadratic formula. So what is the discriminant? It's this part right here in green. So here's the whole entire quadratic formula. As you guys have already seen, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You can see that if you want. I won't for now. This green part right here, this is what's called the discriminant, right? The b squared minus 4ac. Just that part right here. That's your discriminant. So what this tells you is the type of answer you have. So why the word discriminant? Well, this comes from the word discriminate, which of course usually has a bad connotation, but in this case is not necessarily an evil thing. It just tells you that you are able to treat your answers differently based on what that discriminant, right, this part here is. So for example, I'll give you the definition now and then you can show you some examples after that. So if that part, that b squared minus 4ac, if that's more than 0, in other words, it's positive, then you have two real answers to your quadratic equation, the whole entire equation. Okay? If that part is exactly 0, so like b squared minus 4ac gets you 0, you have only one answer, and that'll make sense in a couple minutes when I show you an example of that. Finally, if this part is negative, right, less than 0, so that means negative, then you have two imaginary answers, which should kind of make sense because if you square root a negative number, it's an imaginary number, so it should make sense. So let me show you an example of each of these in action. So here we go. First example, we've got a equation here, it's quadratic, x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0, and so I'm going to solve it. Got my a, b, and c over here. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root. I'll put this in green. 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1. And of course, all over 2a, so 2. So if I go again, what I have is negative 2 plus or minus, and this part in green is 4 minus 4. Right, because 2 squared 4, then 4 times 1 still 4, all over 2. So what happens then is I have x equals negative 2 plus or minus 0, because the root of 0 is just 0, all over 2. So again, going back to the last slide, when the discriminant is 0, I have one real answer. So look here now. I have plus or minus 0. So negative 2 plus 0, negative 2, negative 2 minus 0, still negative 2. That's why it's only one answer. So it's only one answer, and the discriminant equals 0. My only answer here is x equals negative 1. Right, negative 2 divided by positive 2. Next one. So 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. So here's my a, b, and c. Let's go ahead and work it out. So x equals 2, because it's negative b, so negative negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c, which is 4. So then that all over 2a, so that's 6, 3 times 2. So I keep going here. And it's 2 plus or minus the square root of 4, square root of 4 minus 48, it's going to be imaginary, all over 6. So my discriminant, if I just write this out again, is clearly going to be a negative number, right? Negative 44. So this is my discriminant. After all, it's a negative in the radical, so as you guys know by now, that means your answer is imaginary. So in this case, I have So in this case, I have x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 44, and I'll put the I in front because it was negative, all over 6. So because I had negative discriminant, I had two imaginary answers. So again, if that inside part's negative, you have two imaginary answers. And this stuff you may have already been able to figure out on your own if I didn't define it for you. And after all, negative radicals are imaginary. That's all discriminant tells you. Something you may already know. So last example, I have this equation here. 2x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0. So here's my a, b, and c. So I go ahead and solve it. I picked green this time. Oh well, I'll change colors. X equals negative 5 plus or minus the square roots. We'll go orange this time. So 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 2, right, 4ac, all over 4, because it's 2a. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square roots of 25 plus 16, all over 4. So you can see right here that my discriminant is going to be 41, and a positive 41 at that. So this is not a very nice answer. Root 41 is not a whole number, however, and I can't break it down any further than that. However, because this is positive, right, that is a positive discriminant, so I do have two real answers, because I'm going to be having negative 5 here and then plus or minus some actual real positive number over 4. So I have two answers, the plus and the minus. So again, this is why these rules apply. So again, if that inside part of the radical is positive, you have two real answers because you have plus or minus actual numbers. If that whole part's 0, only one answer because you're doing plus or minus 0, so it doesn't change anything. And if that part is negative, then you have two imaginary answers because you have two imaginaries, you have plus or minus an imaginary number. So that's it for now. Have questions, guys, bring them in class. Our test is Thursday. Wednesday in Miss B's class. Anyways, see you later and good luck.